Welcome into the Inside Scoop. We are live from Nashville, Tennessee. Today's Wednesday, September 4th. I am your host, Josh Newberg. We got Pete Nakos here riding shotgun. Pete, just hang out for a minute. We got an exciting week one. We're going to talk week two coming up, preview some of these big visit weekends, kind of turn the page on what was a really exciting week one. All right, so let's cover what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk some Oregon recruiting. We're going to talk Auburn, Michigan, Nebraska, and we're going to talk some NIL with old Pete over here. But first, guys, hit subscribe. And also, I can get you on 3 for just $1 using promo code BERG1. We're always going to keep this channel free. But if you want to read all of what Steve Wiltfong, Chad Simmons, the great Pete Nakos have to say, go sign up. Promo code BERG1. It gets you on 3 for just $1. All right. Let's get going. I want to bring up the current top 10 recruiting rankings. And as we see, Ohio State still at number 1, Alabama, LSU, Georgia, and Auburn at number 5. We're going to talk about some of these programs. Texas, Tennessee, Oregon, A&M, and at number 10, you got Oklahoma. Then you got FSU. How long can they hang on at number 11, being 0-2? Notre Dame at 12, Miami, Clemson. Then you got Michigan at 15, Georgia Tech in there at 20. All right. Let's talk some NIL. I got Pete Nakos, On3 NIL expert with me. He wrote a really interesting article this week. Pete, you ranked the top collectives in college football. So is your team one of the ones that are paying the big bucks to keep this roster together? We're going to find out. Speaking of big bucks, let's talk Prize Picks. Prize Picks got me in week 1. I'm not going to lie, Pete. Prize Picks got me, but week 2, I'm coming back strong. It's super easy. All you got to do, select 2 or more players, pick more or less on their projected stats, and place your entry. This is the most exciting way to play daily fantasy. If you have the skills, you can turn $10 into $1,000 with just a few taps. Prize Picks, it's really simple. Now, here's who I'm going with this week. I'm going with an NFL pick and a college. So here we go. Hear me out. I know you look like you're good with money, so tell me if this is a good investment. I'm going Caleb Williams with more than 0.5 passing. That's like one of those gimmies. Yep. Then I got Lamar Jackson for more than 1.5 rushing and passing TDs combined. Lamar Jackson, 2 TDs. I think that's easy money. Yeah. For college, I'm going Shedeur Sanders, 1.5 passing yards. I took more than. Yep. I think he's going to throw more than 2 touchdowns against Nebraska. Quinn Ewers, I'm going more than 244 yards on the ground and through the air. Good investment?
That's going to be the one.
I'm making money. You guys let me know, comment section below, what are your picks? So Prize Picks, quick withdrawals, easy gameplay, and an enormous selection of players and stat types. That's what makes Prize Picks the number 1 daily fantasy sports app. So here's what we're going to do. Go to prizepicks.com/inside scoop and use code inside scoop to receive a guaranteed $50. All you got to do is play $5 in lineups. So go to prizepicks.com/inside scoop. Promo code inside scoop. It's Prize Picks, daily fantasy sports made easy. All right, Pete. Now let's talk some NIL. You wrote a story ranking the top 15 collectives. Let's talk about the top 5. You guys can go to On3, read the whole update there. But Pete, before we get into the actual list, what makes a good collective?
So this collective list was establishing the top collectives in college sports right now. So the biggest thing for us is who has the highest bankroll, who's viewed by their peers as one of the top collectives in the country. And then beyond that, too, how are they doing at retaining and attracting talent? And we're going to break this down here, but I think it really reflects what we're seeing in the recruiting rankings. And then also when you look at the AP poll and who are the top collectives in the country right now and the top teams in the country.
All right, so here we have it. Ohio State, Tennessee, Texas, Oregon, and Miami. That makes up your top 5. But, hey, all I heard all summer were the rumors that Oregon had unlimited funds by Phil Knight backing him. So is that not true?
That's not true. You talk to a lot of people around this NIL collective world, and people are just kind of in awe of what Oregon has going on. They have the NIL collective out there is called Division Street. It's heavily funded by Phil Knight. It's actually run by a lot of former Nike execs, which kind of adds this allure to it all. And the one interesting thing about how Oregon is operated is you go to their website, right, and we'll talk about these other collectives. They're not asking for the common fan to donate. I mean, they're kind of taking care of it themselves. There's some really interesting collabs they've done with Nike actually to raise dollars.
I did see that. So that's kind of interesting. I saw some of the collabs they did even a few years ago with the NFTs, and they would put these NFTs out.
Yeah.
They would sell out in a matter of minutes.
Yep.
And they would make 100, 200,000, and I'm like, oh wow, they're printing money.
Yeah. I mean, they did another really interesting thing too, like the dawn of NIL, where they turned an Airbnb into like an Oregon-themed Airbnb, and all the dollars from that went back to the collective. So
I kind of think that's how it should be. I mean, when if you thought back 20 years ago and you said, hey, in the year 2024, they're going to be paying recruits, I'd be like, oh, great, it finally went that way. And then the time traveler says, oh, but it's the fans paying the recruits.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'd be like, wait. What happened to the $1 billion in contracts for TV? Oh, those are still there.
Yeah.
So then why isn't the money coming? Oh, no. The fans are going to. But it seems like the money should flow through the corporations.
Yeah.
And that's what Oregon's doing.
Yeah, that's what Oregon's doing. And that's kind of why they are. I don't know if they have unlimited money, Josh, but they definitely have some deep pockets out there in Eugene.
All right. Why do we have Ohio State number one?
So we heard all off season, right? The Buckeyes are spending about $20 million. New athletic director Ross Bjork said that publicly. Mm-hmm. I've confirmed it with sources. They're well over the $20 million mark. Writing this story, I talked to the Collective, the foundation. One of their co-founders, Brian Schottenstein, told me that he is estimating that over 10 players on this year's roster, roughly 10 players, are making $1 million or more.
Wow.
To put that in perspective. So what Ohio State's done on the trail, what they've done in the transfer portal, picking up guys like Will Howard, Quinshon Judkins, Caleb Downs, that has really set them apart.
How are these teams like a Tennessee, Texas, Miami, Oregon, Ohio State? How are they allocating funds between transfer portal and high school? Is everybody along the same lines, or do we see different strategies?
Everyone's doing things a little different, right? You look at like some of the blue bloods on this list, like in Ohio State. They're all about winning now. We know that. Mm-hmm. So I think when you look at how they're spending dollars, they're really prioritizing recruiting, but the amount of money they're spending on the portal dwarfs what they're spending on recruiting. And, the other thing that nobody really talks about, like we like to talk about how this recruit got that much or that portal got that much. I mean, Ohio State brought back double-digit guys who could have been in the NFL draft, and that takes dollars.
Right.
That's called retention. That is the name of the game.
Yeah, it's really interesting. Yeah, you got to balance recruiting these guys out of high school with also recruiting these guys to stay away from the NFL, and both recruitments cost you money.
Yeah, it's it's pretty crazy.
All right, you got Miami at 5. At one point, John Ruiz was named On3's NIL Person of the Year. Is John Ruiz even still involved with Miami's collective?
So I have a story coming out more about Canes Connection, which is the prominent collective there now. And so none of the dollars that they're spending on this roster right now come from John Ruiz. John is completely out of the picture. It's really interesting, though, too. Miami's another school
John Ruiz crawled so Miami's new collective could walk?
If that's how you want to say it, Josh, I'm not going to put it like that. But they're spending roughly over $15 million, have had sources tell me that. And when you look
all together
with right now on this year's roster, so you look at some things when we talk Miami, right? They've done a really good job of flipping some like really top recruits. You think of a Justin Scott and a Mark Fletcher, who were former Ohio State commits that they flipped. I mean, we saw Fletcher, the running back, have a great day Saturday against Florida. And then in the portal, I mean, the cash spent there has really paid off in dividends when you look at a Cam Ward, a Tyler Barron, other guys like that. Damian Martinez got a lot of reps at running back. So that is kind of what Miami's approach has been, and just really making sure that Mario Cristobal has all the resources he needs to get Miami back to its heyday.
Yeah. Is anybody allocated more funds on this list than Tennessee has to quarterbacks?
No.
I mean, no. But that's kind of like what we see, right? Like different characteristics for different programs. Tennessee willing to go do whatever it takes to make sure Josh Heupel has a long list of quarterbacks ready to go.
And you look at this list, and we keep going down, right? Like Notre Dame's on this top 15, and Notre Dame has done this interesting thing where they have been recruiting quarterbacks, but the last few years they've only started transfers. And then you look at a Tennessee, and Tennessee is really doing everything they can to build up that pipeline. They got Nico Iamaleava right now. They have George McIntyre, the 2025 commit, and other guys like that. They also have Faison Brandon, the 2026 commit. So Josh Heupel is stacking this up, and obviously what Tennessee can do from an NIL approach is not it's a big factor here.
What happens when the investments you make don't turn out the way you expected? Because right now we're heading into week 2. We haven't even played week 2. There's only one team out there that's 0-2, and that's Florida State.
Right.
And we know that Florida State was they're not a top 3 spender. They're maybe not a top 5 spender, but they're definitely in the upper echelon of spending, especially in the transfer portal. So and they're not going to be the only team in this situation by the time the season's over. So what happens when you feel, a fan or a staff member, they feel like, hey, we didn't invest right because whatever we did this offseason didn't work? Are they tied to those investments for years to come? What's the fallout of a bad season with NIL?
So we're really starting to see it for the first time. I think obviously everyone wants to talk Florida State right now. They're the best example. You could actually point to Miami.
But also too. Florida State, though, Ingram Smith came out and famously told you a couple weeks ago that they've invested more heavily in the transfer portal than they have high school recruiting. And when you see Florida State's transfer portal product on the field, you're like, well, I don't really understand what they paid for.
Yeah, that is the risk at the portal, right? And then on the flip side of that,
but how long are these programs kind of tied? Is it like a one and then they can kind of revamp it?
DJU, right? Everybody wants to put DJU under the microscope right now. He's only going to be at Florida State for 1 year,
right?
So you're really only tying dollars to him for about 6 months or so. So when you talk about the portal, that's the risk that you have to take when you take a guy, and odds are. With the top portal guys, you're only really taking them for 1 to 2 years.
Yeah, that's true. So you kind of get that money back. You could take a look at your roster and see, hey, can we do a better job now? It's not like in the NFL where you sign a guy to like a 3, 4, 7 year deal.
But at the same time, some collectives only do a year-long deal, so then they can reevaluate when the portal reopens and say, did this work? Did it not work? Or, there are such things as surefire portal prospects too, and they're like, we need to lock this guy in for a 2 to 3 year agreement so he doesn't leave, school X or Y.
All right, Pete, let's leave it with this. Your top 15, you guys can go read that on On3. Who's a program that's outside your top 15, maybe even a smaller program who just you're hearing has a really well-run NIL collective?
So, took a lot of phone calls last week for some programs that didn't make it. And to be honest with you, the one or two that really could have snuck on there was an Auburn and Texas Tech. Both have done really good jobs, and we keep hearing about Deuce Knight and Auburn come up. And we'll be honest here, NIL isn't everything, but the fact that they have one of the more well operated, aggressive collectives in the country cannot, it has to be looked at too. So Auburn's done a great job. They retain talent. They're doing good on the trail on the recruiting trail. That is one collective that I've watched grow and would have been on that list if it was a top 20 or 25.
All right. Thanks, Pete. Like I said, last time we had Pete on, we're going to continue to talk NIL. We're going to educate ourselves along with you guys. It's all happening. It's all new. Some of you guys don't like this, but hey, even if you don't like NIL right now, you might as well learn about it because it's not going anywhere. So you guys talk to me and Pete, comment section below. How do we feel about these top collectives? Are you a member of one of these top collectives? Let us know. Comment section below. Nebraska's gearing up for a big recruiting weekend as Coach Prime and the CU Buffs come to town, but there's also some big recruiting names coming to town, including 5-star Michael Terry, Oklahoma wide receiver commit Cortez Mills, and more. I got Sean Callahan from HuskerOnline.com in this video. We're going to go behind the scenes of this big visit weekend and break it all down. But first, Nebraska fans, jump on board because we've been talking Cornhusker recruiting all offseason long, and we're going to continue to do it all through the season. So jump on board and hit subscribe for me, please. All right, let's bring in Sean Callahan, and let's start with 5-star athlete Michael Terry, the #1 athlete in America. Now, we all see these Texas picks rolling in on the recruiting prediction machine, but does Nebraska still have a shot to wow him this weekend?
Well, they'll have a great opportunity. It's going to be as electric of an atmosphere as you're going to see in college football here on Saturday night with Colorado and what this rivalry means. It is a night game, not a big noon kickoff game. I think that adds the elements. And, he's, for the way Nebraska played week one with Dylan Raiola at quarterback, they've got a lot to sell. I mean, you can talk about things and sell hope and what you're going to be. Well, week one really showed everybody what Nebraska now can be with Raiola. And if he can deliver a performance in front of this electric atmosphere, you just never really know where it could go from there. But yeah, Texas clearly, I mean, less than an hour from his home, they are the favorite right now. But I think Nebraska getting him back now for a third visit is huge.
Yeah, well, a big win could mean recruiting fallout. And one of those names that I'm watching this weekend is wide receiver Cortez Mills, because when he picked Oklahoma about 2 months ago, it was a really tough decision. I mean, Nebraska was involved, Miami also involved, and now just a couple weeks after his decision, he's back in Lincoln for this game. What are you hearing on Cortez Mills heading into
Well, and again, I think this is the Dylan Raiola angle at work here. I think Raiola has been big in helping recruit these guys. When you can show that you've got a talent like that, the quarterback position, and how everyone else around them is going to be better, the way he featured so many receivers, and those weren't just routine throws. He made some elite throws that we really didn't see very many quarterbacks in college football make, and this was his first collegiate start. So there's a lot to sell, and that's got the attention of Cortez Mills, and now they'll get him back again for a great opportunity.
All right. Speaking of flip targets, Dawson Merritt is going to be back on campus. Number 105 overall, but he's from the state of Kansas. He's committed to Alabama, and he's visiting Nebraska this weekend. What are you hearing on Dawson Merritt?
He'll make his fourth trip now to Lincoln since Matt Rule's been here, and this will be big for Nebraska. It was a dogfight between the Huskers and the Tide, and he's informed Alabama he's making this visit this weekend. He's 3 hours away in Kansas City, so they've got the distance angle on their side, and he really likes Nebraska. I think his heart was interested in Nebraska, and to get him back again is really telling, and he's got a lot of connections and Kansas City ties now to this program. Isaiah Mosey and Jamar Mosey now a part of this program. So there are a lot of angles in that Kansas City area that I think could help work in Nebraska's favor. And the fact they're getting him now for maybe the biggest home game that we've seen in Lincoln in at least 10 plus years is a great opportunity.
Yeah. Speaking of opportunities, one of the Nebraska Cornhuskers' top uncommitted targets is linebacker Christian Jones. He's expected to be in town for this one. When are we expecting a decision from Christian Jones, and where do you think Nebraska sits right now?
Well, Christian Jones was here last week as well for the opener against UTEP, and he is the only in-state target of note that is undecided here. And Oklahoma and Nebraska are probably the two teams out in front. You've heard rumblings at one point in Miami and some teams like that, but the Sooners and the Huskers are the teams to beat right now. And I think Oklahoma, if they, that's a team that could have a slight edge. It's hard to say because you're just wondering, what is he waiting for? He's been to Lincoln so many times. What will it take to kind of pull the trigger, as he's really strung this out pretty deep in the process? But there's no question Nebraska wants Christian Jones. He's a priority. But with Dawson Merritt now here, that's another linebacker. So, they take both those guys because that is a big position of need.
All right. Now, I want to talk about a key 2026 target that's going to be on campus. And after the David Sander Jr. sweepstakes, finishing runner-up to Tennessee, Nebraska is once again involved in a number one offensive tackle. I'm talking Jackson Cantwell from the 2026 class. It seems like Nebraska has their hooks in on Cantwell a little earlier than they got in on David Sanders. Do you feel that way?
Yeah, this is the third year in a row now they've been involved in the number one tackle. Yeah. You go all the way back to Matt Rule's first year, and here they are again with another opportunity at a five-star tackle. Brandon Baker was the first one, and then last year David Sanders, and now Cantwell. Can they get him back on campus? They have the location finally on their side. I mean, Lincoln to where he's from is a short drive, which really helps Nebraska. But there's no doubt he's going to command a big number in the NIL world, and he can go wherever he wants. I mean, he's one of the top offensive linemen in the country. And again, you hope that for Nebraska, if they can really show some results of improvement on the field, that it's going to go a long way in impressing Cantwell.
Speaking of going a long way, what does a win do on Saturday night? A win over Colorado. I know it's not the end of the season. It doesn't make the season. If they lose, it doesn't break the season. But what would a win do to Nebraska recruiting in week 2?
Well, right now in the AP poll, Nebraska's 30th. So, they'd have a chance to be ranked, if not next week, maybe a week later, based on how they've played to start the year. And you can really sell that as great progress because Nebraska hadn't been ranked since 2019. So there's a real opportunity to crack the polls. But you have the opportunity to get Dawson Merritt, Cortez Mills. You go down the line, Christian Jones. There's a legit 3 or 4 and 5-star guys, Michael Terry, that they're still in on for 2025. And they finally have something to show and sell these recruits, which is the other big part. I mean, Raiola and what he showed in week 1, that has gotten the attention of everyone. College football shows nationally are talking about Nebraska at a high level because of what Raiola has done for this program in just 1 week at the quarterback position.
All right, Nebraska fans, talk to Sean and I. Let us know, comment section below, how we feeling headed into this big visit weekend, and what do you think the potential is for Nebraska recruiting if they come out of Saturday with a win? Let us know, comment section below. Auburn, they're pushing for the #1 recruiting class in America. That's right, the Tigers, they were outside the top 10 at the start of the summer. They had a hot summer. They started surging into the top 10 by August. And now at the start of the season, Auburn is sitting there with a top 5 class, and they are not done. In this video, I got the great Philip Dukes from the 5-Star Flex. We're going to find out what Hugh Freeze's secret has been on the recruiting trail. But before we get into it, guys, hit subscribe to the On3 Recruits channel, the best recruiting channel on all of YouTube. So jump on board, hit subscribe for me, please. All right. Let's bring on Philip Dukes of the 5-Star Flex. Hugh Freeze has Auburn in year 2 sitting in position to make a run at the #1 class in America. The last year's success on the trail was no fluke. What do you think the secret has been to this success?
I think it's about Hugh Freeze having small deposits or making small deposits. I think from the first time I met Hugh Freeze some years ago back in Atlanta, he had no idea who I was. He stops by and he says, "Thank you for everything you do." And I'm like, he doesn't even know me. And I'm asking him, like, well, why you say that, coach? And he says, well, I see how the kids react to you. That's a small deposit. Now imagine if he does that at every school where he sees kids that react to an adult a certain kind of way. He thanks them. He makes them feel special. And I think that's what it is. I think that the way he talks to parents, the way that he talks to recruits, and his ability to make deposits early on. He starts early and he finishes strong. And I think that Auburn approaching the #1 class is 1,000% by design.
Yeah, I don't know him personally, but people like you, the recruits that I speak to, people say he's very genuine, and stories like the one that you just told kind of resonate throughout. And I guess, that's what makes successful recruiters these days, is people that can be genuine and make connections like the ones you're talking about. And at this point, Auburn is not done. We're talking recruits like Deuce Knight, Elijah Melendez, potential flip of a Naeem Offord. Usman Chroma is now trending towards the Tigers. So do you think that the Tigers really have a shot at finishing #1 in 2025?
Absolutely. I think I think they will finish #1. If I had to make a prediction, based on not just the guys that you named, let's say they go 3 out of 4 on those guys. That's going to put them right in that top 2, top 3 range. But there are other 5-stars who are going to see what Auburn has going on that they'll go back and check on. If you think Auburn is done with Justice Terry, you're crazy. They are going to continue to recruit guys at a high level, guys that they've had contact with, that are going to be able to see the product that they're putting on the field. Last week we saw Auburn put up 70. Or a huge amount. I forgot what the exact score was, but you saw how much Auburn scored last week. I think they're going to put up a good number on Cal, and the product on the field is also going to dictate more people that want to look in and see, man, what does Auburn really have going on? And I think they're actually a year ahead of schedule, and that's really a tip of that. It deserves a tip of the cap to Hugh Freeze and what he's been able to do, and staff. I mean, you bring on a guy like Kenyatta Watson, who has crazy relationships with the state of Georgia. When you watch the Georgia Tech Florida State game a couple of weeks ago, his fingerprints were all over it. So when you have a guy who has those type of relationships. You get a guy like Will Redmond. We're not just talking about the on-field staff. We're talking about the guys off-field who know how to treat people when they get on campus, who have relationships at high schools all across the country. You're able to get the best evaluations, and guys that we haven't even named that are going that may not be 4 or 5 stars now. Their evaluation has been so good. I think that as these guys continue to rise to raise their stock, is also going to play a part in Auburn having number 1 class.
All right, Dukes, we know recruiting doesn't happen in a vacuum, and you kind of hit on it. What happens on the field also matters to recruiting. So Hugh Freeze can be as genuine and as kind as he wants, but if those games are not getting won, they're not going to recruit well. So we know if Auburn is trending toward a number 1 class, what do they have to do on the field this season to prove to recruits like, hey, we're headed in the right direction?
I think you got to win one of the big ones. I think you have to beat another recruiting giant on the field. So whether that's Georgia, whether that's Bama, I think Oklahoma win bodes well for you. Kentucky, you're in the battle with Kentucky for Martell's Carter. Like, there are guys out here that are looking at other schools that when Auburn comes through there, and when Auburn beats them on the field, then it bodes well and provides proof of concept of what you can add to this program. Like, as I said earlier, this program is a little ahead of schedule. I think if Auburn could get 8-9 wins this year, then you kind of start the seismic wave of what can happen going forward. And I think it's the same thing that we saw at Ole Miss. You saw the number 1 class come in, and you saw immediate victories come soon after. Last year, Auburn only won 6 games. I think people were expecting a little bit more. But when you look at where they came from as far as the depth of talent on that roster, it's a completely different roster now. Next year, you're able to fill some holes with some of these guys. Like, let's say you add a guy like Naeem Alford and he sees, okay, well, Auburn may not have the strongest secondary. Well, I could go in and play with these guys. I know the offense is going to be taken care of. Mm-hmm. And if you could, those are the type of things where you can say, look, I need you here because we could have won this game if I had a guy here. And there's no disrespect to the players on the field, but when you're recruiting, those are the things you have to say. You have to say, I do have a spot for you.
Yeah, absolutely. That's how you got to sell it. Deuce Knight flipping to Auburn seems like a question of when, not if. You know, just talking to insiders at Auburn Live, talking to Steve Wiltfong, Chad Simmons, all these guys, everything points to Deuce Knight flipping to Auburn. So you've had a chance to actually interview Deuce Knight multiple times on the 5-Star Flex. What would Auburn fans be getting in a Deuce Knight on and off the field? So as a player and a leader.
I think off the field, you're getting a great human being, but also a leader among peers. I saw him at the Under Armour Elite event early this year in February, and you just saw people gravitate toward him. There were other, like he was there with Julian Lewis, and there was just as much interaction with Julian as there was Deuce. And when Julian came in with the number 1 ranking and the 5-star status, and Deuce wasn't as big of a commodity at the time, but you saw people still just kind of gravitate towards his aura, his energy. And I think that's what he brings off the field. When you talk about on the field, you're getting an elite athlete, somebody who can make it happen with his legs just as much as he can with his arm. And when you think about pairing him with a guy like Cam Coleman and Perry Thompson, when you have a guy who can make something happen in the second phase of the passing game and then be able to have a cannon for an arm, I mean, an absolute rocket launcher, those are the type of things that excite someone when they're going to play in a Hugh Freeze offense. I liken it to a bigger Malik Willis, a taller and maybe not as thick at this point, but and then you look at the potential that his frame has to fill out. By the time Deuce Knight is finished growing, he really, at this point in his career, and I know people are going to say this a million times, but at this point in his career, he really has a body type similar to Cam Newton.
I think Auburn
he does, man. I mean, 6'5". When you saw Cam at Westlake High School, he looked very similar. Now, games, I do think that at this point in his career, Deuce is a more polished passer, and I don't think he's the physical presence that Cam was, but there are some similarities to that frame.
Well, I'm fired up. I'm sure Auburn fans are fired up too. Talk to me and Dukes. Let us know, comment section below, how we feeling about this class. And do we think that it actually finishes number 1? I kind of believe. Comment section below. Dukes, what do we got coming up on the 5-Star Flex this week?
Oh, 5-star flex. We have KSR Radio. My man Nick Roush is coming on to talk about the South Carolina Kentucky game. We've also got an interview with Martellus Carter, who's Auburn is pushing for,
Yeah.
and is really looking closely at that Auburn Kentucky game coming up.
All right. Lot of action on the channel. Make sure you guys are subscribed on 3 Recruits. Let's go. Let's talk some Michigan recruiting. We got a big noon kickoff this weekend against the Texas Longhorns. All eyes on the Michigan Wolverines. A lot of recruits going to be in attendance. I got EJ Holland from the Wolverine, and we're going to talk some recruiting. But first, Michigan fans, do me a favor and hit subscribe to the On3 Recruits channel. We love talking Michigan recruiting here. We're going to do it all season long, so lock in and hit subscribe for me, please. All right, let's bring in EJ Holland. And EJ, let's talk first about linebacker Nathaniel Owusu-Boateng. He's a maybe on that visitor list. I'm sure you guys will confirm it later on this week on the Wolverine. But he's the number 69 ranked player overall. Notre Dame leads on the RPM, but we know Michigan's involved. We know Texas is also involved. So how important is this game for these two teams?
Yeah, it's huge. Nathaniel Owusu-Boateng made an official visit to Michigan in June. He also saw Notre Dame, Ohio State, USC coming out of the summer. I felt like Michigan and Notre Dame were right at the top of that list. Suddenly, Florida started to come in. He was there this past weekend. Obviously, they got boat raced. But Texas, has come in as a player as well. So he really wants to get a chance to see both teams. He's trying to make it work with his schedule, trying to see if flights are available. I'm actually covering the IMG Cocoa game on Friday night, and the only flight out of the state of Florida is up in Orlando at 5:45 a.m. to make it in time for kickoff. So, they're still trying to plan out. It kind of sucks when you're a team like Michigan and you recruit nationally and you have a noon kickoff from a recruiting perspective because it's tough for guys to get in. But anyway, with the Owusu-Boateng, like I said, I felt like Notre Dame and Michigan were the two schools coming out of the summer. I felt like Ohio State and USC had faded some, but I think of Texas and Florida, Texas is a more stable situation and has a chance to make a real impact. So he wants to see both schools in action, preferably against each other this weekend. Michigan had an entire defensive staff change this offseason, so he wants to see how Wink Martindale will run the defense as opposed to Jesse Minter. What kind of similarities will there be? Differences, obviously. How will he be utilized in particular? Does he feel like he meshes well with that? Kind of the same thing with Texas, just seeing the defensive scheme, getting more familiar with Texas since they're kind of a late rising contender. So it would be big to get them on campus, even from a Texas perspective. Obviously, it's an away game for them, but I think they want Owusu-Boateng to get a chance to see them live before he makes his own visit out to Austin. But, both of these teams are very strong contenders in this race. They're right up there with Notre Dame. His brother played for the Irish, and that's a big thing for him. But I think Michigan has done a fantastic job. And I think Texas has done a really good job of rising late here. When it comes to Michigan, he's the guy at the linebacker position. It's one of the biggest needs left, and he's right at the top of the board.
Yeah, I mean, hey, there's not many top 100 players available at any position right now, so Boateng being available at number 69 overall, he's a key recruit. So we're going to talk more about Michigan recruiting. One of these common themes when we talk big visit weekends is the fact that they have younger prospects being on campus. With the recruiting cycle being so sped up, I mean, most of the 2025 cycle is already determined. Michigan has a ton of commitments already, so they are looking to 2026. There's going to be some key trench monsters on campus. EJ, who are you focused on?
Yeah, definitely. So like I said, it's tough for guys out of region to make it for noon kickoff. So I think the USC visitors list might be a little bit more stacked, but still a really good, list early on for Michigan for the 2026 class, especially as you mentioned in the trenches, on the offensive line. You have Gregory Patrick, who's one of Michigan's biggest targets, top 100 kid, in-state kid. Michigan needs to keep top talent at home. And so Gregory Patrick's visited on multiple occasions. Michigan's been doing very, very well in that recruitment. You have Will Conroy coming in from enemy territory out of Ohio. Michigan recently made his top 5. I think the Wolverines have a really strong chance there. On the defensive line, you have Jermaine Kinsler on 300 defensive linemen coming in from New Jersey. I actually had a chance to see him in game this past week. I think he's going to keep rising up the rankings, potentially be a top 100 guy. He's an absolute monster at 6'5", 275 pounds. Depending on how his body grows, he can play multiple spots along the front. So yeah, I think those three guys really pop out, when it comes to guys in the trenches. I think you have a few other 26s on 300 wide receiver. Travis Johnson out of Virginia was just added to the list a couple of hours ago. I saw him in game on Friday. Fantastic, big-bodied wide receiver, which is something Michigan really needs this next cycle. Jordan Thomas also coming in out of New Jersey, a 4-star defensive back. And the nation's number one running back, Javian Osborne out of Texas, just told me he's trying to get a last-minute flight out there, so it would be big for him to potentially see the run game against, his home state team in Texas. So those are some of the names to know coming in this weekend.
All right. He's not going to be at the game, but it wouldn't be a Michigan recruiting segment if we didn't talk about 5-star offensive tackle Andrew Babalola. We've been on Andrew Babalola commit watch for the last 5 or 6 weeks. Now we cross into September. As of today, what's today? September 3rd. EJ, what are you hearing on Andrew Babalola?
Yeah, I wrote my insiders piece yesterday, and it's tough. I had one of our fans on the Fort message board ask me, have you ever covered this high profile of a recruitment where it doesn't seem like information's really leaking anywhere? It's been the same info coming out of all sides for the past several weeks. And we're nearing September 6th, which is the date he said he wanted to decide before. And who knows, he might delay it. At this point, I think those on the Michigan side are cautiously optimistic. I think Steve Wilfong's done a great job of detailing, in his talks with various schools, it's always this school and Michigan. So that's usually a good sign. But in this recruitment, again, I don't feel like anybody has a true feel for it. I wrote yesterday, after the 1,000 words, the same conclusion. I still feel like it's 50-50 here. Andrew Babalola has always been a guy that's valued academics, and Michigan offers the best blend of elite academics and elite football. Stanford has the edge when it comes to the education, but Michigan's not that far behind. And when it comes to football, obviously, you're playing on a bigger stage at Michigan. The development's been great along the offensive line. Now, Stanford's produced some offensive linemen as well, but Michigan has, I think, a better track record here recently. They've won back-to-back Joe Moore Awards. The new head coach, Sharon Moore, was responsible for those Joe Moore Awards. He values offensive linemen. He's from Kansas, so there's a personal connection to Andrew Babalola. Babalola actually spent a couple of years of his childhood in nearby Bloomfield Hills in the state of Michigan, which is only about 45 minutes away from Ann Arbor. So, I think Michigan checks a lot of boxes for Babalola. The thing I've heard that's changed recently is Stanford's kind of fading a little bit, and Auburn's making a big run. And Auburn's been red hot on the recruiting trail. NIL hasn't been too much of a factor in this recruitment, but you never know in this era. Things can, change very, very quickly. And so I think, if you're talking to NIL, Auburn has the advantage over Michigan in that perspective. And if that's the deciding factor, then I wouldn't be overly optimistic. But if NIL isn't at the forefront, if it's still about elite football and elite academics, then Michigan has the advantage over all its finalists.
Yeah, you got to love it. Andrew Babalola update. Nobody really knows. So Michigan fans, talk to me and EJ. How do you guys feel about landing a 5-star offensive tackle in this class, and also this upcoming game against Texas? You guys going to win? Give us a score prediction. Comment section below. EJ, thanks for stopping by today on the Inside Scoop.
Yeah, thanks for having me. If you're a Michigan fan watching this, you can subscribe to the Wolverine. 50% off right now for the big game. Just use the promo code GOBLUE at thewolverine.com.
Let's talk some Oregon Ducks recruiting, a couple flip targets I want to hit on, and some 5-star intel. I got Justin Hopkins in this video. He's from Scoop Duck, and we're going to break down the recruiting fallout from week 1 of the season. The Ducks survived Idaho. I don't know if survive's the right word for it, but they did something. They won. They moved on. They're going to fight another day, whatever the saying is. But let's get to the recruiting intel. Before we do that, Oregon fans, make sure you guys are subscribed to the On3 Recruits channel. We're going to talk Oregon Duck recruiting all season long, so jump on board and hit subscribe for me, please. All right, let's bring on Justin Hopkins from Scoop Duck. And this weekend, The Ducks had a top 100 prospect on campus, but he's committed to Texas. His name's linebacker Elijah Barnes, and there's some concern. I talked to Texas insider Justin Wells, and this was not something that the Texas staff even knew was taking place until obviously he showed up. So what do you hear on Elijah Barnes after this trip?
Yeah, not much, right? It's September, so this thing will play out for a little while. Oregon did well to get him on campus. That's step one. I would say as he headed home, and I know he did enjoy the trip. We've got an interview with him and talked to him. I still feel like he's firmly committed to Texas at this time. But, you and I both know that 3 months until signing day is a lifetime in recruiting. So if you're Oregon, you get him on campus once, keep chipping away. Maybe you get him back again and just kind of keep pushing the door open. But for right now, I would say he still remains committed to Texas, and the flip meter is fairly low.
Yeah, but there is some concern in Austin over one of their top linebackers taking a trip to Oregon. Well, like you said, long games at play here, so we'll just have to keep an eye on this one. Now, another one that I'm keeping an eye on is cornerback Naeem Alford, the 5-star Ohio State commitment. There's been rumblings all summer long that, maybe, hey, he's going to open things up. Well, he hasn't opened things up. He still remains committed to Ohio State, but he took a visit to Auburn this weekend, and just hearing Alford speak afterward, you can kind of tell this recruitment is open, at least to some degree. So what are you hearing on Oregon's chances? One, of getting Alford on campus this season, and two, flipping him.
Yeah, 100% believe Oregon will get him on campus at least once this year. Actually, ironically enough, Alford has mentioned that he plans on visiting Oregon for the October 12th game with Ohio State, where he's committed. Kind of unique, but you don't see that every day. But, with regards to Alford, I felt like his chances of ending up at Ohio State haven't been great for the last month or two. Oregon has felt really good about their chances with him. I know Alabama was in there, but it's kind of faded a little bit here. Auburn, has felt like the biggest competition to Oregon of late, and it looks like Auburn's picked up a little bit of steam with that visit. I know there's been some picks, with Auburn and Alford, but I feel good that the Ducks should be able to get him on campus before anything is imminent there. And I do really like where Oregon stands, and honestly, it feels like it's an Oregon versus Auburn battle at the moment more than anything.
All right, the 2026 cycle it's a year away, but it's happening now. And one of the prospects we got to talk about is the number one overall prospect for On3. That's Jakeem Stewart. He's a 2026 prospect, but there's rumors. He came out and said, I'm going to make 2 big announcements this week. A lot of speculation that he's going to reclassify to 2025. If he does, his recruitment is going to be sped up because he only has until December to do all of his visits and make his decision. So if he reclassifies this week and that's one of his announcements, Justin, where do you think the Ducks stand for Jakeem Stewart?
Yeah, I think Oregon has treated this recruitment much like a 2025. I think that if he does reclassify, as many of us suspect he will, Oregon's kind of viewed that as the likely scenario. So, with Stewart, I know that there's a lot of buzz around USC. There's a lot of buzz around LSU. Those kind of feel like maybe the 2 teams to watch right now, but I know Oregon is lurking right there. I really don't feel like they're any worse than third. Obviously Stewart knows how he feels about all these programs, but, Oregon's kind of just quietly laid in the weeds, has done a great job getting him on campus multiple times, has built a really strong relationship. So I would say right now that I feel Oregon's among that top 3 for Stewart, whether USC, LSU, whoever's in the mix along there with them. I know the Ducks are a serious player here, and, him reclassifying is something that Oregon's planned on. So it'll be really interesting to see how that moves things for him these next few months.
All right, let's talk about a true 2026 recruit. That's 5-star wide receiver Chris Henry, the number 1 wide receiver in America. He's locked into his commitment to Ohio State. But if anyone can flip him, is it Oregon?
It feels like that's the only school that can. Like, Oregon has done a great job getting Henry on campus. Oregon has just built such a great relationship. Junior Adams, we know, is one of the best recruiters in the country. I do feel confident saying that, he's firmly committed to Ohio State right now. Definitely the Buckeyes to lose, but Oregon has made things interesting. And again, you and I are sitting here talking about a 2026 guy that's got a year and some months left, before he signs anything. So you just keep chipping away at him, try and get him on campus this fall, maybe multiple times if you're lucky. You kind of wonder how the move from Ohio to Mater Dei out in California might help Oregon, might not change anything, but the Ducks have done really well recruiting Mater Dei High School with several commitments last year and a couple this year as well. So we'll see how that kind of plays into things and if the Ducks can continue to kind of move the needle there.
All right, Duck fans, talk to us about these big flip targets, whether it be Chris Henry, Naeem Alford, Elijah Barnes, Oregon fans, how we feel, and let me and Justin know. Comment section below. Well, you've made it to the end of today's video, but there's hundreds more videos on the On3 Recruits channel for you to check out. And also, while you're here, hit subscribe.